It's a scroll. It's a scroll. There's different opinions, as you read. According to Rabbi Sadia Gon, it was written actually by the sons, the Maccabees themselves. And in some communities, that Megillah is read. In Italy, Italian communities, and the Yemenite communities read that Megillah from a scroll on Hanukkah. And we're going to talk about why we don't and the differences between that Megillah and the Megillah Purim, which we do. But we'll leave that maybe for next week. Today, something more perhaps elemental. And that is as follows. So let's try and imagine and understand what exactly occurred in the miracle of Hanukkah. We know the story. There was only enough oil for one night, and it lasted 8 nights. Now, why did it last 8 nights? What's the point of that miracle? Just a simple explanation is, the fact is, because it took 8 days to get new pure oil. It takes 8 seconds to squeeze an olive or less. But to manufacture pure oil takes 8 days for reasons we won't go into now. Okay. Now, what exactly happened? Let's try, imagine you were there watching the miracle. So there are 2 classic possibilities offered by the Bes Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Cairo, in his commentary on the Torah, which is the first articulation of the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. At any rate, he said like this: what could have happened? It's either a quantitative miracle or it's a qualitative miracle. What does that mean? Okay, it's critical now because the whole thing is based on what we're going to say now. Either new oil miraculously appeared. Now, there's 2 possibilities that could have happened, or even more. Pours it in, and then, boom, still full. Or pours it in, flask is empty, then when it burns down the next morning, and they come there, they see, or someone's watching it all night, would see at some point, all of a sudden, from heaven, the flask, the little cups, in the top of the menorah, the containers are all full. You follow? So the miracle is, in the simple language, oil came from heaven. The miracle is in quantity. New oil appeared, again, either in the flask or in the menorah, and there are other possibilities too. The other general distinction is, no, they're all theories. Theory number 2 is, that's not what happened. The miracle is in quality, which means that God endowed the oil with the ability to burn 8 times down slower. The consumption was 8 times slower than ordinary oil. So when they poured the oil into the menorah, so they came back the next morning, or they watched it all night, if they were watching it all night. Instead of it burning down at the ordinary rate that oil is consumed, such that in the course of the entire night it would be empty, it's going 8 times, 8th. It's burning a whole night, but 1/8 only is consumed. They extinguish it. Now we've got 7/8 left. The next light, they light it, another 1/8. And so far, 8 nights. This small amount of oil that only lasts, normally, naturally, 1 day lasted 8 days. So what's the miracle here? Not new oil appeared from heaven. It's the original oil that miraculously burns, you follow, 8 times longer. These are the 2 classic theories as to what actually transpired. Now, there's a problem with each of them. What's the problem? If we're going to say that the miracle was that oil miraculously appeared from heaven, the problem is the Torah says you're supposed to use oil that comes from an olive tree. And the second night and the third night and the fourth night, till the 8th night, it wasn't from an olive tree. It was oil from heaven. So it's not very satisfactory. Now, you might want to answer and suggest and say, the Torah doesn't mean it has to be from an olive tree. It has to have the properties of oil from an olive tree. And that's what God made. It didn't come from an olive tree. It came straight from heaven. But it looked, smelled, behaved like olive oil. So it qualifies. It's not a very satisfactory answer because we always try and understand things as straightforward without having to make a drei, if possible. So to say that the oil came from heaven, it means that they were lighting the second night, not really with oil from olive trees. The Torah says, Shemen Zayis Zach, pure olive oil that comes from an olive tree. That's a problem with that suggestion. Now, the second solution or theory doesn't have that problem because it says it was the original olive oil tree. It was just zapped with this ability to burn 8 times longer, miraculously. What's the problem? These are not earth-shattering problems, but there's still problems. If we can find a better solution, we're going to look for it. What's the problem with the second? So it comes out that the first night it burned down an 1/8. Yeah? Next night, another 1/8. And so on. Problem is, the law says that every night the oil in the menorah, the cups have to be full. They weren't. This is a problem the second theory has. First one doesn't. There was new oil out of heaven, full cups. Its problem is it's not from an olive tree. But the problem with the second theory, which we're sharing now, is it's from an olive tree, all right, but it doesn't satisfy another requirement, that the cups be full. And they weren't. So therefore, the Rebbe suggests a third possibility. The third possibility is the oil didn't burn down at all. It didn't burn down at all. It produces light, but doesn't become consumed. That satisfies both requirements. Was it the original olive oil from a tree? Are the cups full every night? Yeah. The last night it burned down. But otherwise, it produced the oil, produced the fire, and didn't consume. Clear? Now, thinking caps on, I want you to help me here. These are 3 theories. You and I went there to see. We have 3 possibilities. As we analyze the 3 possibilities, what I want to arrive at here is the miracle component. How long is it manifest? The observer, what's he going to see in terms of the miracle of Hanukkah? Let me explain what I mean. If the oil appears miraculously out of heaven, either in the flask or in the cups of the menorah, if a person comes a second later and doesn't know what happened till now, and he looks and he sees the menorah burning, does he see any miracle? Doesn't even know. He's got to be told. I want you to know something. Yesterday, there was only enough oil for one. This oil came from heaven. Oh, wonderful. But he's not seeing evidence of the miracle. The miracle is not manifest. Once the oil is there, it's there. So the miracle happens, if we get this very clear, miracle happens once, every day, for 8 days, for 1 split second. Oil. After that, no miracle anymore. Miracle done. It burns down, and the person observing it, unless he was told, wouldn't even know that something miraculous has happened. Conclusion, miracle happens once, and there's no evidence of it or no manifest expression of it thereafter. Now, second solution. The mirror, what was the second solution? Didn't appear out of heaven. What's the miracle? It burns naturally slower, incredibly slow. Now, if you watch that carefully, do you see that this is miraculous? And you know how oil burns. You're a scientist. Yeah. And you say, hey, this is miraculous. This isn't burning down. True. You see the evidence of the miracle, but is the miracle actually happening every second? No. God zaps it once. You will burn. Molecular structure inside is, played with however God does it. The oil now has the property to burn 8 times slower. What we're saying is the miracle still happens once, but you can see the result of it. If you look carefully, you see it's burning down slower. But the actual divine intervention is 1 second. There's one divine intervention. The moment God, the very beginning of Hanukkah, granted this oil the ability to burn 8 times slower than ordinary oil, it's one divine intervention that you can see the result of constantly. Once God did it, he did it. He changed the way it works, and this burns down slower. There's no need for him constantly to make this miracle. It's a one-time miracle. Why not?
Let's say creation, God created, and that's it. Not that it's constantly, he's constantly.
You're right. Creation.
So it's not clear.
But this, because creation is something added. I'll tell you the difference. Creation is something out of nothing that requires constant. But when you have something and you're playing, it exists, and you're manipulating the way it works, that doesn't have to be constant. Manipulate once, you reset it, and that's why it goes thereafter. It's a good question. But creation fundamentally is out of nothing that needs a constant force, which leads us to the third. When we contrast the third one, you understand. The third one, which is saying it's producing the fire. Now, how does fire produced? Oil has to be consumed. Oil has to be consumed. The oil becomes, and yet the oil is not being consumed. That's constant. That's it. Impossibility that isn't once reconfigure and then it's smooth sailing thereafter. It's like creation out of nothing. This is impossible. Something which is impossible every second needs a constant force, like creation. So here the miracle is manifest. You're watching it. You're not just seeing the consequence of a miracle done beginning of Hanukkah. You're seeing the miracle being played out every second. The impossible. Fire, but the oil not being produced. Clear? Now, the example for that, there's illustration for this, similar. Make it very, won't go into it because we won't have time. But just if you remember, the place of the ark in the Holy of Holies, very quickly, the Holy of Holies, the Holy Temple was 20 cubits wide. In the center, during the first temple for 500 years, and in the Mishkan, even longer, was the ark. It's 2.5 cubits wide. So do the math. If the ark is 2.5 wide, how much is from one edge of the ark to they're all parallel? How many cubits are from one side to the wall and the other? So take 20 minus 2.5 is what? Divide that into half. Huh? That's what you'd expect. And yet, if you measured, you have 3 people in the room, one measuring the ark, 2.5 cubits. Then you got another 2 guys on each end, 10, 2.5 in the middle, and yet it's 20. This is a miracle you can't even imagine. That's an ongoing miracle. Impossible. It's there, but takes up no space. Similarly here, the oil produces the fire, but doesn't get consumed. Now we get to the main part, friends. Beautiful. So this is the Rebbe's solution. It satisfies the problems we had earlier. It is full cups every night. It came from the original olive tree. And what's interesting is, in this solution, it's a constant miracle. Constant, not just...
The oil couldn't have been zapped at the beginning.
Pardon?
The oil could not have been zapped, as you mentioned, for example, or to burn slower. It was zapped at the beginning, and it burned slower. That's when it couldn't be zapped right before Hanukkah.
No, because it needs a constant miracle. It's impossible to maintain. Once you set up, you change the oil's nature. That's now the new nature. Now it's smooth. It goes by inertia. But this is not changing nature. This is impossible. Impossibility needs a constant force. It's impossible. In the second solution, once you change it, it's now possible. The miracle it was changed from the regular rate to 8 times slower. Good point. Okay. Now, friends, the main thing. The main thing. How does this, what's the relevance to us and to today? So we're talking, what's our discussion now? Nature versus miracle. What does it mean on a personal level? I can operate naturally. I can operate miraculously within me, in you. What does that mean? Nature means when my modus operandi, my decisions, my life is all based on what I understand, what I feel, my nature. And the nature of nature, friends, is the survival and fulfillment, pleasure seeking. That's the nature of nature. Everything wants to survive. And we fight to survive. That's the law of nature. The number one law of nature is survival. That's the foundational law. If it wasn't factored into nature, it wouldn't exist. The plant fights for life, everything. Where the sunshine is, where the water is. And they discovered now in Israel, by the way, the plants communicate. Did you see this? Mind-blowing. They emit sounds and communicate. Danger is coming. It was amazing. Which it says in the Medrash. Our sages said thousands of years ago. You got to see this. There's certain pitch that they emit when they're under stress, when things are well, and communicate. Okay, put that aside. It was a discovery the last 12 months, less. Shockwaves around the world. That you can see it. The scientists, the video, they take you and you can hear the sound because the pitch is beyond the human ear, beyond even animals, but they're able to distill it so you can hear the kind of sound that it makes. I had the video. I'll send it to you. You just got to watch this. The wonders of the Creator. And this is what it says in the Medrash, that each creature has a soul and they sing God's praises, they communicate. Okay, so nature is survival, mind, heart. What's miracle? Miracle's beyond nature. What's beyond nature? Sacrifice. When I do something pushing beyond my natural limits, when I'm ready to give up my pleasure, physical or even spiritual pleasure, for you, for God, for the cause, that's going beyond my nature. Pushing the envelope where it's not justified, everything is fine the way it is, I don't have to do this. Mind says you don't have to, the heart definitely resists it, the body's tired, and yet I push. Now I'm already crossing the line from nature to beyond nature. And there's levels and levels and levels. That's the miraculous, the transcendent within self. In a word, sacrifice is not natural. I just want to say something very important. We see, for example, in other faiths, that people sacrifice. I have to tell you, in Islam, to die as for the faith is the ultimate virtue. To kill others for your belief in Allah, oh, you got 72 passes times 72. That's not sacrifice, friends. That's not sacrifice. If you're convinced that by giving this up, you get a bigger reward, that's the most selfish thing possible. That's not sacrifice, even though he's sacrificing. It's like a person at the gym and he's pushing himself. Wow, look at the sacrifice. He's sweating. What sacrifice? He knows he pushes against the resistance. He builds muscles. He's healthier. Nothing, no pain, no gain. That's not called sacrifice. Sacrifice means not for me. No gain, not this world, not the next world. For the truth, for the cause. I give you my olam haba, my share of the world to come. A famous story of the Baal Shem Tov, that he once gave a blessing to a childless couple. For a child, and heaven let him know as follows. This couple during this lifetime is not supposed to have children because of their own reincarnation, whatever. You gave this bracha, you defied heaven's decree, you have lost your share in the world to come. No olam haba. Baal Shem Tov was ecstatic. Finally, I can serve God sincerely without, the awareness of reward awaiting me. There is none. I'm telling you, that's what he said. We're all capable of this to whatever degree. That's unique to the Jew. If you want to get down to the core, this is what the world is irked by, doesn't understand. We're not part of nature. There's something about the Jew that is not, and the core of it is this, is to sacrifice for no gain. It's unnatural. This is in our DNA. Not for Olam Haba, the world to come. Now, it's the quintessential Jewish ability. It's pure sacrifice for the cause, for another. Now here, friends, throughout history, there's three situations we Jews have been in. Overall, we could divide it into three categories. There was the zenith of our history till Mashiach comes. That's the ultimate. But till then, the zenith of our history was under King Solomon. If you look at life then, we were the darlings of the world. We enjoyed tremendous prosperity. There were no wars, no need. They came from far and wide to pay homage. Can we be part of this? Take our money, our gold. We want to be part of your holy temple. Wisest man, respected. Spiritually, scholarship, learning. Children were knowledgeable. Children, the time of King Solomon, he was wise, but that kind of defined the entire people, were like extraordinary scholars compared to today. Temple, God's revealed. You went to the Holy Temple. You saw God. It was revealed. Godness is revealed. Then life was very simple. Mitzvahs, you see the reward. Prosperity. That's one scene. Holiness is revealed. The Holy Land, the temple stands, God's revealed, holy. Another situation that we're faced in our history is, you might describe it as, well, we didn't have too many of these occasions, but truth is Canada. Till now. I say till now. God's revealed? No. Holy? No. But the environment is not it's conducive. You want to be religious, you want to be Jewish, no problem. The government even supports. Schools get stipends. The environment is not holy, but it's not antagonistic. That's the second state. So it's a natural. The first one was a holy environment. The second one is a natural environment. And then there are environments, like in the story of Hanukkah. We're at war. The Greeks are hell-bent on destroying our faith, and because we resisted that, destroy us. And many other occasions throughout our history, and to some degree, shockingly now. Kids are afraid on campus. I don't know if you watch the testimonials. You got to watch this. The heads of the Ivy League universities cannot come out and say that calling for the genocide of Jews is against university policy. Depends on the context. The same kind of, if they say kill this one or actually kill him, then they've crossed the line. But just generically to call for the gassing of Jews, who would have imagined? And the irony of irony, over the years, billions of dollars, Jewish dollars, have funded these schools. And there's a big movement now from the big donors to pull out, and they are. So there's an antagonistic, to put it mildly, for some this is really scary, environment. It's not just natural, it's opposing. So we're already hit, but I want to explain, so it'll be God willing next week, the end of Hanukkah. Just very briefly now, the foundation of our relationship with God, in any relationship, if it's a true relationship, has to be sacrifice. If I love my wife because somebody else always has these properties better, it's got to be, I'm here for you. That's it, period. Now, the question is, this element of sacrifice, which we say in the Shema Yisrael every day, we're ready to give up our lives for God. That's what we're saying. How front and center must it be? I'm drawing the parallel now to the three theories of the miracle. It happens once, and if you weren't there, you don't even know there was a miracle. It happens once, but you can see the effect, or it's happening constantly. These spiritually are three states that we need to be in. So I'm just going to say it because I don't want to leave you hanging. When godliness is revealed, and it's a holy world, that is holy world, like the time of King Solomon, Your sacrifice has to be kind of theory. You don't have to really ever use it. It's a holy world. So it's once, every morning you say the Shema, the rest of the day you go about, and during King Solomon's time, guided by mind and heart alone, and you're fine. Shift to an environment that is not holy, it's natural, doesn't oppose God, but doesn't express him either. There your commitment's got to be a little bit stronger. In other words, in marriage, if you're living on a desert island and there's nobody but you and your wife, then declaring your devotion and fidelity, it's got to be there, but you don't have to constantly visit it because, hey, there's nothing else to do. There's just nobody else. There's no temptation. So, of course, you're devoted, but it doesn't be front and center because she's the only woman there. Second environment is there are temptations, but they're not seeking you. They're not in your world. You got to really make an effort to go out there to get involved, but it's there. So there, your dedication's got to be a little bit stronger. You don't have to be in a constant state of sacrifice, but you're going to have the awareness. You could easily be distracted if you search hard enough, right? That's the second model where the miracle happens once, but the effect's got to be seen later. When you declare, I'm yours, you've got to be consciously aware of that declaration because you could be distracted. But what if you're in an environment where the distraction is coming to you? They're trying to seduce you. She's trying to seduce you. He's on business in the hotel room. She comes knocking on the door. There, you have to have actual sacrifice. There you got to really summon the constant, no, this resistance, and I'm yours. So when we're in an environment like now, at the time of Hanukkah, much greater, when the Yiddishkeit is opposed, then we've got to summon forth a conscious, constant, I am Jewish, and that's it. And I do not cower, and I'm proud. That needs a constant effort. That's the miracle of Hanukkah. They were facing the Greeks. It was a constant battle. So we're saying the Rebbe's solution that the miracle was constant is reflective of the spiritual state of the Jews. They were in a constant state of war. They were spiritually and physically. And that's kind of our time today. Our time today, we are on the quintessential, today, the last 50 days, we are in the Hanukkah state. The third solution, the soul on fire, constantly revealed and illuminating the greatest darkness, which we will. Thanks for joining, folks. Good Shabbos. Nafrelich Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Shabbos, Rabbi.
Shabbos.
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.